Good evening. My name is Chad Smith. I'll be doing this speech today for my oral communications class for professionals at Thomas University. I want to talk with you a little bit today about tougher driving laws that I think needs to be passed, and that it's really a hotbed issue all across the country. Some folks want them passed. Some folks say they're infringing on their rights to do what they want to do in the confines of their vehicles. Mostly alcohol related and distracted driving, which is cell phones. Everybody's heard of the driving while drunk, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They've all heard of all those things, and everybody's got an opinion on it. And as well as the cell phones, everybody's got an opinion on that. But before we get started, I just want you to imagine yourself sitting in your favorite chair in the comforts of your home, enjoying a nice, relaxing evening, watching your favorite television program. Then the phone rings. Now, I know when the phone rings at my house after dark, I'm wondering, who's calling me, interrupting me watching Andy Griffith? But it's the local police department. They are calling you to let you know that someone in your family has been in an automotive accident. Your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your brother, or your sister. Any member of your family. It could be anything. It could be a good friend. They are alive, but they are in critical condition. And this automotive accident that they're in is a direct result of someone drinking and driving, or perhaps driving while distracted. Before we get into the alcohol deaths and the distracted driving cell phones, I'd like to speak with you a little bit about the Georgia motor vehicle fatalities that have happened in the past. According to the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, there were 1,430 fatalities in the state of Georgia in 2015. Those numbers have increased in 2015 by about 23% over the 2014 numbers. To some, that might not seem like a lot of fatalities statewide compared to the millions of cars and trucks that travel Georgia's roads every day. However, I guarantee to those 1,430 family members that lost a loved one in 2015 due to a traffic-related death, those numbers are very high. What struck me while doing this research is those numbers could have been even higher, even worse. The Governor's Office of Highway Safety reported almost 385,000 vehicle accidents in 2015 that resulted in 19,405 serious injuries. So you and I can both see that we were extremely fortunate that those numbers, those fatalities that were suffered on Georgia roadways were not even higher. Alcohol deaths. We've all heard of it. According to the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, driving while impaired resulted in about 26% of Georgia's overall traffic-related deaths in 2015. In fact, the number of alcohol-related fatalities increased about 31% over 2014. So this is not going away. This is getting worse, and then something's going to have to be done about it. Rural drivers have a higher fatality rate than urban drivers. Now you say to yourself, well, why is that? Well, you're in a rural area and you have a wreck, especially at night. Somebody might, if you run off the road any pretty good distance, it may be tomorrow before somebody finds you. So those numbers could be skewed on that a little bit as far as urban to rural deaths. But urban areas have higher alcohol-related deaths than do rural areas, which that makes sense too also, because there's more places, more access to get alcohol than there are in urban areas than there are in rural areas. Just because of the sheer number of drinking establishments that are in the urban areas, like I said, compared to rural. Distracted driving. This is a problem. It's not just a Georgia problem, it's a national problem. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, there was 3,477 people killed by distracted driving in 2015. Of those 3,477 people nationwide killed by distracted driving, Georgia accounted for 72 of those deaths in 2015. 72 deaths because of distracted driving. 72 deaths that could have been avoided. 72 husbands, 72 wives, 72 parents, 72 children, or 72 brothers and sisters that could have lived to see another day. Had they simply put their cell phone down, or had the driver of the other vehicle done the same. I feel as though that Georgia was very lucky with only 72 deaths in 2015 because there was 2,041 motor vehicle accidents. It was a direct result of distracted driving. Those numbers are according to the Governor's Office of Highway Safety as well. According to AAA, there are several tips that you can use to avoid distracting driving. So ladies, this means you need to finish your makeup at home. In conclusion, these figures are almost 3 years old. They're a little behind in releasing the new data. I have to attend child fatality training classes, and they're about a year behind on those. Now, the number of teenage deaths to these things have came down, but the number of adult deaths have not come down, according to what I heard in the last class I was in March. I don't believe that they have improved. If anything, they've gotten worse. Like I say, all you have to do is ride around any town. You can pick the town. You can pick the time of day, and you can see somebody riding around talking on their cell phone, texting on their cell phone. It's just, like I said, you can pick it. It's everywhere. It's statewide. It's nationwide. You can pull up to any local convenience store across the state, across the country, at about 5 o'clock in the evening, and there's Leroy and Bubba getting out of their truck or their car, and they're going inside, and what do they come back with? A brown bag with a beer inside of it. And what do? They slide right back under the wheel of that vehicle and drive home. Or do they drive home? Or what's to say they don't go 2-3 miles down the road and they didn't finish that one off and whip into another convenience store and get them another one. We all know that happens. The question I have for you today is how many more people have to die before we finally realize that we need tougher driving laws? Before we realize that we have to enact tougher driving laws through legislatures and through the state to pass these laws to help the citizens of this state and the country. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.